Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Some parents tell me that their estranged adult child either lied or has been lying to them, and they find it both hurtful and disturbing. So I want to talk today about why being lied to by an adult child can be so upsetting, why adult children might choose to lie to their parents, and also just a little bit about how to respond if this happens to you. I think there are different layers of distress that can be triggered when an adult child is dishonest, but probably the biggest concern for many parents is that the lying seems to indicate an unwanted change in the relationship. If there was a time when you felt confident that your child would let you in on whatever was going on with her, the lying now, in contrast, will make you feel shut out. And that right there is a loss. Your child is keeping an important part of herself from you, and suddenly, instead of being an insider in her life, you've been relegated to the outside. For parents with a personal history of rejection, this can start a cascade of awful feelings. It's important to recognize those awful feelings as something you are experiencing for good reasons, rather than a reflection of your child's being an awful person. You may be concerned about your child's character if it seems to have deteriorated. Your formerly sweet, decent child seems to have become an immoral liar overnight, maybe because of someone else's influence. You might wonder about his mental health or happiness. How well can he really be if he's choosing to deceive the people who love him? But before you follow that depressing and unnecessary train of thought, let's see if we can agree that you raised your child to be a decent person. And if he's lying, there must be some reason for that. Let's look at a couple of reasons why adult children might be less than honest with their parents. The first reason might be privacy. If your child didn't used to lie to you, then lying may signal a desire for more privacy. I've had parents tell me that their adult children, we're talking people in their 20s, lied to them about having sex with a girlfriend or boyfriend who was also an adult. And in those cases, the question becomes not, why is this person lying to her parents, but why is mom or dad asking an adult child about her sex life? Sometimes it's easier for a dutiful daughter or son to lie than to say, that's none of your business. So rather than viewing your adult child's lies about their activities as a sudden descent into immorality or a certain sign of declining mental health or undue influence by someone else, think about whether your child may simply be trying to set a boundary without being confrontational. Many times people lie to avoid confrontation. Reason number 2 for lying could be embarrassment. Adult children might not want parents knowing too much about their personal lives because they might feel embarrassed or ashamed about something. They may worry about disappointing their parents by not measuring up in some way that they believe is important to the family. Among the multiple factors that could contribute to embarrassment are a shy or introverted temperament and an upbringing that included strong views and rules around behavior, which dovetails with a third reason, fear of consequences. Many people reflexively lie when telling the truth would leave them open to criticism or even punishment. I've heard of adult children lying about finishing college or even being in school to protect themselves from the wrath they anticipate from their distraught parents. Remember that anxiety or distress in a parent doesn't necessarily register as such with adult children. Instead, they may experience their parents' anxiety or distress as judgment or anger. And actions you take to avoid further damage, such as closing a credit card that an adult child has charged to the maximum, can be felt as a punishment, rather than simply prudent action taken to reduce further harm. The fact is, it can be both. Your intentions will not always match your child's perceptions, and no one has to be wrong for that to be true. So, there are 3 of many possible reasons why adult children who are basically honest might lie to their parents. Always ask yourself, why would a reasonable and moral person choose to lie about something like this? Is my child simply claiming more privacy? Could he be embarrassed enough about this to want to hide it from me? And what consequences might she fear from me if she were to be open and honest about this particular thing? Let me end with a few thoughts about how to respond when you uncover dishonesty or deceit in your adult child. If you give your child money for rent or medical bills and she uses it to go out with her friends, then you'll want to set limits around giving her money in the future. And these will be your limits, not hers. It's important to take responsibility for protecting yourself if your child's lying is costing you. Always remember that you have a right to enjoy healthy boundaries in all of your relationships. As a parent, you can be kind and generous in spirit without allowing yourself to be taken for a ride. If your adult child is lying to protect his privacy, then if you'd rather not be lied to, certain areas of your child's life may have to be off limits for conversation, at least until further notice. If she's lying to avoid consequences, then something may need to change so that the consequences of her behavior don't come from you. All of us face consequences for our actions, but there comes a time in our lives when those consequences shift away from being our parents' responsibility to simply being natural outcomes. Do set personal limits if you need to, but then think about letting go of the burden of holding your child accountable for her actions. Stepping down from that role might ease some tension in your relationship until eventually she may not feel the need to lie anymore. If I could say just one thing about this topic, it would be this. Never attribute to immorality, mental illness, or third-party influence behavior that can readily be explained another way. Trying to understand your adult child's motivations and behavior will expand your ability to influence your relationship for the good, and it's an important step on the road to reconnection. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please, take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out ReconnectionClub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at ReconnectionClub.com.